So what you just watched was Minnesota Governor Tim Walz signing a law guaranteeing free school lunches to students in the state of Minnesota. This story is incredibly heartwarming, but it's also deeply, deeply tragic because it speaks to something really awful about our country. Because unfortunately, in a lot of places around the country, it is controversial, the idea of feeding children. Quite literally, Republicans are upset at the idea of our taxpayer dollars going to feeding children. They unironically push this idea that these children should be working hard to earn their way in life and that their parents should just be paying for all the school lunches and that somehow poor children should be punished for the financial conditions that their parents are in. And everything about it is just so deeply shameless because it really just reveals like how little empathy Republicans have. And it also shows how low the bar is in the United States of America. It is an incredibly good thing that Tim Walz signed this bill, but we should all be asking the question of why every single governor isn't doing this. Why is every state legislature not doing this? Why do we not have a federal law guaranteeing free school lunches for everybody? Because with the current state of things, there are a lot of people that are struggling to put food on the table. And it becomes even more difficult when you literally have to pay for something like school lunches for your children. And Republicans love to walk around pretending that they're like the party of taking care of children. I mean, they want to save all the unborn babies, right? Except for, of course, they don't want to feed anybody. Because heaven forbid children have food. And so quite literally, Republicans are leaving children hungry across the country while also claiming to support like family values as something like that. And it's just deeply pathetic. But it speaks to this ruthless mentality of capitalism, which is this idea that everybody should be fending for themselves and you shouldn't expect any handouts and we succeed on our own. But the truth is, we don't succeed on their own. Nobody in the history of the world has ever succeeded on their own. Everything that we do is fully dependent on other people, and especially the conditions of living that we have growing up, which is why things like this are so important, because if you're struggling to pay for food when you're literally a child, you might struggle in school because you might be hungry. And if you're struggling in school because you're hungry all the time, then instead of going to college or something, you might just have to get a job during high school to literally pay for your own groceries. And these are the types of things that lead to this systemic inequality where poverty is something that becomes generational. And Republicans know this. They pretend that they don't know, but they know this. They know that nobody succeeds on their own. They know that these like millionaire entrepreneurs usually have inheritances and rich parents that support them early on in their careers. They know that people who are poor usually are just put in really crummy conditions in life and aren't given the opportunity to succeed in the first place. They know all of these things. They just lie about it and they present themselves as though they somehow magically were these successful people that did it completely on their own, because what they don't want to admit is that their success fully depends on the system being completely biased in their favor. And if they admit that the system is biased in their favor, that might lead to people actually demanding real systemic change so that everybody can have an opportunity to succeed, so that everybody can have food on their table. And so it's really heartwarming to see some progress with this bill, but we really need to see a lot more of this because it shouldn't just end at the free school lunches. Not only should we have year-round food programs to make sure that people are fed, but we also need to reevaluate larger structures within our economy and our system to make sure that basically anything that's a necessity is going to be taken care of. Why don't we have universal housing programs? Why don't we have universal food programs? Why don't we have universal healthcare programs? Because children are impacted by a lot more than just not having a school lunch. Everything from unstable housing or lack of access to healthcare, or even your parents not having access to healthcare, can make a huge difference in the trajectory of your life. And if we really want to live in a morally decent society, we should be guaranteeing a basic standard of living to everybody, no matter what. Because the only way that success could even possibly be determined by your own individual effort is if people are taken care of even when they're not succeeding. Because if we all don't have a safety net to fall back on, then the only people who are allowed the meteoric rise of success are people who have inherited a safety net from their parents.